Okay, our final unit, we are going to talk about similar triangles. That's section 6.2. We skipped 6.1. Similar triangles, what does it mean to be similar? We all know what a triangle is. Something with three sides, a polygon with three sides and three angles. But what does it mean for triangle to be similar? Well, they're said to be similar if they have the same angle measures. What does that mean? Well, that means that this angle is the same as this angle is the same as this angle, which means this angle, it means that this angle, all those top angles are the same, if you want to call them similar. Otherwise, you really can't call them similar. If they're not all the same, then you can't call them similar. But if they are the same, well then that's a definition of what a similar triangle is. Let's move on. Ratios of sides of similar triangles. Now, what does this mean? If my triangles are similar, that means the ratio is the same. So let's say these are similar triangles. Okay, all the angles are the same. But what does it mean, the ratio of the sides of similar triangle? Each one of these make two of these, then each one of these will make two of those, which means each one of these will make, two on that side. That's all it means. And that's a rule, that the ratios are the same, and we can use this to solve problems. Okay, so let's look at this mathematically, because we saw it with pictures. Now, if I say that these are similar, that means all those angles are the same. But it also means that this ratio, if I divide AB by DE, that's the rate at which one is bigger or smaller than the other. AB over DE, that will tell me how much bigger AB is than DE. Right? That'll give me the ratio. Well, that's going to be equal to the ratio between these sides, which is, look, this big triangle, small triangle. So, big side divided by small side is equal to this big side divided by that small side. They're the same. And that means that's equal to this big triangle, AC, divided by DF. Or FD, same thing. All these ratios are the same. What does that mean? That means if I know three sides, or two sides on one, and a side on the other, or a corresponding side on the other, that means I can find the other sides. Okay, let's look at this one. If I know AC corresponds to GH, that's my ratio, then BC will equal to HI. We'll start with this. This one will be BC divided by HI, but that'll come in the next slide. AB, right? We're looking at, look at this, AC, GH, big to small, is the same thing as big to small, GI. Let's clear markings. That's going to be the same ratio as big to small, right? We have big divided by small. Example 2 first. Example 2 shows me two similar triangles. Now what that means is that, look, this angle is the same for both of them. That's undisputed. It shares the same angle. Now, these sides are parallel, and they go against the same horizontal line. And because they're parallel, they'll make the same angle. And that's something called F pattern that you learned earlier, but I think it's kind of intuitive that if you have a line, if I have a line and I have something going through at the same, and they're parallel, Well, it just makes perfect sense that this will be the same angle. Now, if I have two angles are the same, these two angles are the same, that means these angles must be the same. Why? Because I have 1, 2 are the same, and they should, no matter what, on both triangles, they should equal 180. So therefore, these angles are the same. And that's what makes them similar. And that pretty much shows that they are similar. Now, how do we solve for x and y? Well, we have a ratio. We have the small triangle to big triangle, right? Because they're similar, their ratios will be the same. Big triangle, small triangle to big triangle will equal the ratio from small triangle to big triangle will equal the same ratio from small triangle to big triangle. Okay, let's do the first one. Clear markings. Let's look at this. I have the small triangle. We're going basically from small over big sizes. So 20, that's why we have small on the top at the numerator, divided by big, 20 plus y. That's one ratio. Our next one will be small divided by big. That's 24 over 24 plus 6, which is 30. 24 plus 6 equals 30. Well, the next step is to divide both sides by 6. You can do that. So we have 20 over 20 plus y equals 4 over 5. And we basically cross multiply. 4 times 20 plus y equals 5 times 20. And of course we distribute this 4 to the 20 and 4 to the y. We get 80 plus 4y equals 100. Let's bring this 80 to this side. Subtract 80 from both sides. We get 4y equals 20. Divide both sides by 4. We get y equals 5. Now we have to solve for x. So we solved for y. Yay. Y equals 5. Our next step, small over big. 20 over x equals small over big. 24 over 30. Small over big, which is 24 plus 6. So divide both sides by 6. We end up getting 20 over x equals 4 over 5. Now we can divide both sides by 4 to get, 1 over 5 equals 5 over x. In which case we rewrite it. And that's equal to 5 over 5. It's just a different way of doing algebra. 5 times 5 is 25. X equals 25. I'm done the question. Example 1. We did example 2 earlier, but we're going to do example 1 now. Our first thing to verify is, are these triangles? We need to find x and y. But before we can proceed, we want to know, are these angles the same? Are they similar? Well, we know that opposite angles are the same. So we know that's the same. And this marking indicates that they're the same. Now, if I have two sides that are the same, this can only be one possible angle. If these angles are the same as the previous one, that means this angle should equal to this angle as well. So now we've established that these triangles are similar. Now, what we have to do next is map our sides because it's not so obvious. So our first thing to do is to say, okay, what side is opposite to this angle? Well, that's easy. So we can do big to small. That's a big triangle over small triangle. So how much bigger is it? Well, the ratio is 12 over 8. And we can map that to this side over here. What's opposite to this side? This angle over that. Or we actually need to use the larger one. Large, big triangle, which which is y, that's the big triangle, over small, over 6. Now, how do we solve that? Well, it's easy. It's cross multiply. 8 times y equals 12 times 6. 12 times 6. Now we can divide both sides by 4, in which case we get 2, 3, and then we can divide it by 2 as well. Divide both sides by 2, we end up getting 3 times 3. Y is equal to 9. And we can do the same thing. This side corresponds to that side, right? Because these opposite sides, let's erase some things. Right? These opposite sides, these angle corresponds to this 10 on the large. So 10 over this opposite side corresponds to x. 10 over x is equal to, well, 10 is on the big triangle, so we're gonna take 12 over 8. And we end up getting, let's cross multiply. 12 times x equals 8 times 10. And we can divide the same thing. We can divide this by 4, we end up getting 3. Divide that by 4, we end up getting 2. So 3x equals 20, or x equals 20 over 3. And we cannot divide any more than that. We have our final answer. X equals 20 over 3, and y equals 9. And that's how we solve it. We use the fact that they're similar triangles by making sure that all the angles are the same. And by using the by knowing that they're similar triangles, we make sure when we know that there are similar triangles, we know that the ratios are going to be the same for all the sides. And then we use that to solve our variable. On a sunny afternoon, the shadow of a building is 12 meters long. So there's a building, and the shadow's 12 meters long. Then there's a nearby flagpole, and it's 8 meters tall. And it casts a shadow of 3 meters long. What's the height of the building? So I have my building, I have a flagpole, and they both cast a shadow, and of course it hits, both of them have the same angles here, and it's all 90 degrees, so therefore they're similar triangles. Okay, now the building, the shadow of the building is 12 meters long. The flagpole is 8 meters tall, and it casts a shadow that's 3 meters long. What's the height of the building? Find height. So we're letting h represent the height of the building. So what's our ratio? Well, big to small. These sides correspond, right? The right angle and the shadow to the ground angle. 12 over 3, big to small, equals h to 8, big to small. And then we solve for it. Divide both sides by 4. 4 over 1 equals h over 8. H equals 4 times 8, which is equal to 32. Therefore, the height of the building is 32 meters tall. And that's it for a similar triangle.